Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Instagram Live with David Dang. I know it's not live right now, but we have this really awesome setup that my friend, he got it all set up for us just for this episode. All right, first, I'll let him introduce himself to all of you. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience, what you do, and what the cool stuff that you're working on right now.
Absolutely, David. So excited to chat. I just checked your Instagram following. I guess there's going to be around 1.8 million that are going to tune into this episode. So
I hope so.
Kind of nervous. I think I went to the washroom 6 times in the last hour, but excited to chat, buddy. So my background is, I guess you could say I'm a business development guy. I've been working in technology startups for basically the last 7 or 8 years. And I would sort of say that my claim to fame is finding the first customer. So I really think that finding the first customer is the most challenging thing to do pretty much any company, because if you don't find the first, you don't even have a business. And I think a lot of people screw that up, including myself. So I've found the first customer 10 times in my career. Have all 10 of those startups gone on to be successful and raise funding and all that? No. But I think I figured out the hardest part. And I think finding that first customer is both an art and a science. So I've been figuring that out. And right now I'm a senior growth manager in a company called Deep Dive. And we're trying to build the next $100 million company.
That's awesome. What does the company do? What does Deep Dive do exactly?
So if we're going to use a big buzzword, I'm going to say digital transformation services. But basically the thing we're doing most right now is we're selling blockchain products to the enterprise. And right now, for example, we're working with a recycling company that is looking to create a more transparent process of how a recycled can of Coke would go from a consumer back to the facility and be recycled into another can of Coke in a way that allows big companies like Coke to be more efficient and more transparency in the supply chain. So a lot of supply chain stuff, a lot of blockchain stuff, which is not the same as crypto. And we're basically a 25-year-long service company that's looking to productize. And as I hope to talk about today, looking to leverage personal brands.
That's really awesome. Well, one of the things that I know a lot of my audience, they struggle with is that a lot of them, they're in a very early phase of a business. They're just starting their own business, whether it's a small startup or it's just a small business, a solopreneur, they just work by themselves. The biggest struggle they have is to find the first customer, which is what you just mentioned earlier. You have done that multiple times with the businesses that you have been working with. What do you think is the biggest mistake that small and new business, new startups are making that's stopping them from getting that first customer?
Yeah, I think the issue is priorities. So I think that in a perfect world, you would spend half of your time focusing on your craft. So focusing on your product, on your service, heads down mode, and you would spend half of your time going out and getting traction. Now, I might be biased in a negative way here, but I think it's important because you have a lot of technical founders that are really smart. They're young, maybe they're 22 years old. They have the next great idea. They want to be the next Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, whatever. But they end up spending like 80, 90, 95% of their time focusing just on the product. And they might think, oh, I need to release something as soon as I can. But it's not about how fast you get your product out the door. It's about how fast you get the right product out the door. So that's where I see a lot of founders really screwing up. Is I think if you want to find the first customer, you got to learn the first customer. And in order to learn the first customer, you need to get in front of the first customer for as much time as possible. So I think a lot of founders screw that up. And I think that it's a bigger and bigger problem now than it was before, actually, because you got a lot of these young tech founders that come and our world's becoming more and more technical, right?
That's very true. No, I totally agree with your point. I mean, if you don't have a customer, you really don't have a business. You could have an amazing product, but if you just don't have any customer, people who want to buy your product, that they see the value that your product can bring, then you really don't have a business at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah.
what is the first step for a startup or just business, small business in general, somebody who's just starting the business? What is the first step to get their first customer? What do they need to do first?
Yeah. So you need to less building and more talking. So I think that probably the best thing to do, so everything is a hypothesis. Everything is an experiment, and I think that's really important in life, but particularly in a startup. You think that you have a solution to a problem. You don't know, because if you knew, you'd have customers that are already paying you. You wouldn't be a startup anymore.
Yes.
So you're experimenting. So I think that founders need to have an idea what they want to build, but then they need to go and validate. They need to look at all these different assumptions. And you only get to that by talking to people. So you figure out what your big assumptions are. So is it a problem?
Yeah.
Like that's a big assumption. What that product needs to look like what features are most important. What is the current process of your target customer? Is your target customer even your target customer, right? You might think it's one profile, but it might end up being another. And these are actually not just like day one problems. These are forever problems. But I think that's probably where to start, is talk to as many people as you can that are that you think are either A, potential customers, or B, that are just stakeholders that might have an interesting perspective. So for example, you might be targeting, I'll use a real example that I had instead of a fake one. I was targeting farmers. So I wasn't just talking to farmers though. I would talk to the head of a nonprofit that supports regenerative farming. I would talk to somebody in the government. I would talk to somebody that invests in ag tech companies. And then you get these different perspectives. And then what you get from those conversations is you figure out more accurately, what do you need to put on your website? How do you describe your business? What's your sales pitch? What are your product features? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess let's see if I get this right. First, you would identify the problem that you're trying to solve first. Once you identify the problem that you're trying to solve, then you can figure out who are having those problems. You can identify your target customer, the people who are having those problems right now. Then you go speak to them, right? To clearly identify, okay, these are the problems and these are the things that they're struggling with right now. And then you can use that feedback to build a product that they need and want. And then once you have that product done, you can go back to them and sell it to them and get them as your first customer. Am I getting that right?
So I agreed with everything that you said until maybe towards the end, because I think that, and I almost don't know where to look. I'm going to make sure I spend 5% of my time looking at the camera. So that'll be a good ratio. But I think that you don't want to be in a situation ever where you finish building your product. You've gone through a lot of time, effort, resources, stress, and then you give it to someone. I think that needs to be as agile as possible. So ideally, and you might have said this, so please excuse me, but what you should have is a situation where when you are building something, you're building it because somebody told you that they would use it. Because somebody told you that they would buy it, or they would probably buy it. Maybe you have a letter of intent. Maybe you have cash. Maybe you just have somebody saying that, you know what? Yeah, if you did this, I would trial it. I would test it. So you don't spend the time, effort, resources, stress to build something where it's a guess that they might use it. But here's what I would think. You also don't want to do nothing. So if you just go to somebody and you say, I have an idea. Freaking everybody has ideas. So I think that's where it's like, don't spend a month of, building something. Spend a few days. Have some kind of mock-up. Even a nice picture. Like I use the software called Ninja Mock. You can design, if anything, what you're doing is software, you can design what the screens look like, where the buttons are. Show that to a customer, get their feedback. Build based on their feedback, and then when you go back to them, there's an extremely high probability or guarantee that they'll at least try it.
Okay, I see. So essentially you try to get your potential customers to build a product with you. It's not like you just get the feedback once and then just go completely on your own, like hibernate for like 10 months and just work on the thing and then just suddenly go back with a finished product. But instead, you would get the feedback, build a little bit, get some progress in building the product that you're trying to build, and then get back to them to get the feedback again. And it's constantly a feedback loop until you get a finished product that can be sold to the mass market, right?
100%, yeah. Until you get to the point where you can scale it, and I'll tell a short story here if it's okay, because I started a podcast and a brand really called First Customer Club, and with that, like, there's a story that's central to it, and it ties in right here. So I released a product in healthcare for paramedics. The brand is called Medic Hero. It still exists, you know, and we're still having a lot of success, particularly in our home-based region. And anyways, we did so much. I got so much press. We launched with such a bang. There was so much excitement and thrill around launching, and the customer was actually super excited. So we actually listened to the customer. We did everything, and then we launched, and you could hear a pin drop, like complete fail. There was some users, but the users were giving bad feedback. They were saying it's a shitty app. It's not user friendly. And what we realized is, you know, it wasn't just enough to check off the boxes of what the customer wanted. We actually had to put ourselves out there with the users of the product. So I then spent 200 hours, like that's a lot. I spent with the users of my solution. And I just listened to what they said. And I spent time in an ambulance, in an emergency department. I bought a lot of pizzas and burritos, and honestly gave a lot of beer to a lot of people to spend their Friday nights with me in a boardroom saying, mock up what this solution needs to look like. And after that happened, lo and behold, we relaunch, we get 10 times the number of daily active users, and then all of a sudden the solution becomes a mandatory tool. Everybody starts adopting it. So it really taught me how, like, you really need to do that process by just saying, okay, what do you want? And do that as intimately as you possibly can. And a lot of founders skip that, and I don't know why, but I've done it myself.
No, that's a really cool story. You have to make sure that your product can actually solve the problem that you're trying to solve, right? Because a lot of times you think that your product can solve a problem, but it might not be the exact problem that your target customer are having. It might be, they might have a different struggle, slightly different than what you thought it would be, and then you build a product that's not even solving the actual problems that your customer are having, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You think you're launching with something good because it has a nice design, because you think the features are good, but at the end of the day, somebody might you might realize something little that is actually huge. Like, for example, oh, you use this in an environment where you don't have an internet connection. Maybe the whole solution required an internet connection. You got to start from scratch. So maybe it's like, oh, you can't use a smartphone. That's too small of a device. Nobody can actually click that. So I think my best framework that I've figured out from honestly talking to a lot of other leaders is understanding current state and future state. I believe it's called bridge positioning, but it's kind of like you need to understand everything about where your prospective customer champion is today. What their current pain point is, what they currently view as alternatives to solve that pain. And then where do you want to go? Where do they want to be? What do they want that they don't have right now? And kind of bridging that gap, I think, is entrepreneurship, right?
Okay, yeah, that's a really good explanation. You used the word prospective customer champion. So, I mean, a lot of my audience, they are in the earlier stage of entrepreneurship, and a lot of them are in the beginner stage. So can you quickly explain what that means?
Yeah, so some people could just say, oh, first customer or whatever, but like a champion is somebody that's going to give you more value than just the revenue from the sale of your first product or service offering. So it's not just the fact that they gave you money, but a customer champion is someone that's going to spend extra time with you, and you're going to spend extra time with them to make sure that their circumstance is a bright and shining example. It's a bright and shining case study. They're going to be so happy with you that they're giving you industry secrets of who you should talk to next. They're the ones that are educating you on what the product should be, what problem you solve, what you should put on your website. They're the ones telling you to go to this conference and that conference and the other. They're the ones telling you industry trade secrets, and they become honestly friends. And I think that's kind of an important piece here. A customer champion should be a friend, as opposed to you just cold calling somebody, them saying, oh, I'll buy your product. It's more or less a customer champion, I would say, is an advisor before they're a customer. They're an advisor and a friend. I would probably say friend, then advisor, and then customer. And I think when you get that, you get all this extra benefit. For example, you're going to an investor meeting. On the way, you realize there's a gap in your presentation. Call your customer champion. Will they pick up the phone? Or will they be, it's my vendor? If they're calling you a vendor, they're probably not a customer champion.
I see. Well, I know you have a lot of experience in the tech startup. Would this concept work for just a regular business that's not in the tech industry?
Yes.
Okay, can you give some example on how that would apply?
Yeah. So I was talking to... I'll talk on a B2C example, business to consumer, because a lot of my examples are business to business, and there are a lot of founders out there that are building a lot of cool shit that's actually business to consumer. So talking to a founder that has a new startup right now, and his biggest challenge is just a fear of reaching out to potential customers. Where do you start with that? So he's an experienced technical founder. He knows a lot of stuff. He's like 60 IQ points ahead of me, right? Really, really smart guy. But I told him, when we're working together, I emphasized how important it is for you to talk to customers before you end up going and figuring out how you're going to code the app. Maybe you can develop the app yourself. Maybe you're using off-the-shelf tools. Maybe you're selling a food product to restaurants. It actually doesn't matter. You should be reaching out to people that are a combination of A, willing to give you time, and B, relevant to you. So in his case, we looked at that potential customer profile. I like the number 3. So if you think your customer looks like something, choose 3 different profiles, and then whatever you get traction with, double down on that. So I said, find 3 profiles and go and talk to those people. Don't talk to like your mother or father, because like they love you and they're never going to say your idea sucks. But like find people that will give you time and might have relevant feedback, and do enough of that so you can then figure out what you need to build. And ultimately from that, you should be able to find some people that all of a sudden you see they're coming at you with really good ideas. Maybe they have some background in the industry. And then you start to build closer and closer relationships with these people. You call them an advisor. You invite them over for a summertime barbecue. And it doesn't matter if you have an established company and this is your 3rd startup and you've exited the last 2, or it's a new startup that you're starting today. Make friends. Find advisors. And from that, these people should inevitably become customers. And when they are a customer and you want to push for press or you want to do a marketing campaign, you can turn to that person and say, can you give me a testimonial? Can you do a joint video production with me? All of a sudden, you feel more comfortable doing that because you spent the time to get to know them in the first place.
That's amazing. Okay, so once you got that first customer, is there any secret to scale that to get even more customer? What would the next step be?
Probably if there's a secret and anybody's got one, let me know.
All right.
Because I haven't figured out the secret yet. But I would say that, and I like to talk about this. It's find the first customer, but it's also find, keep, and grow. So I think you got to do the 3 of those things. So if your first customer project or experience, again, it could be you could have 10 people that try your prototype app. It could be you got one deal with a local grocery store. It could be you sold something to
Yeah.
a large enterprise. It actually doesn't matter. But in any of these situations, you need to make sure that their experience is top notch. Because if it's not, then you're not going to get the benefit of being able to brag about what you did for customer number one. So I think that's one of the key points to help you get to the earliest part of scale.
Yeah.
Is you got to take what you did do for your customer champion.
Yes.
You got to over service the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Make sure that their experience is great. By the way, if it isn't, no problem. Do it again. That's why I think the relationship's important. You shouldn't be scared of failing, but at the same time, do everything that you can so their experience is good. Even if the product sucks, if it's supposed to do something automatically, you go and do it for them. You know what I mean? You bridge that gap so they have a good experience. Then you build a really sexy case study around that. And you go and you take that case study and you take it to the media. You take it to social content. You take it to blogging. You take it to some type of like Google AdWords. You take it to cold calls. You take it to cold emails, and you start the ripple effect. But you need to be able to say, this is what we did. This is how it works. Here's a picture of it in action.
So let's see if I can summarize what you just say here. So the first thing you would do is first, again, clearly understand the problem that you're trying to solve. And once you got the first customer, you would then really over deliver whatever you promised them, right? You try your best to over deliver it, actually solve the problem, and use them as the case study or the social proof factor, like as a testimonial to get your second, your third, your fourth, and your fifth clients, right? So if you can make one customer happy, and especially if what you call is the customer champion happy, it's much easier for you to get the second, the third customers to buy into your product. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a product. It could be a service. Doesn't matter what you sell, right? If let's say if you do a service, get your first customer who really need your service. That whatever problem that you're solving, over deliver with your service, or if you sell product, over deliver with product, and then use that as a testimonial to get a second, third, fourth, fifth, and just the snowball effect will start rolling from there.
Absolutely. And I think that we should start using the word product even if it is a service. Okay. Because like you should look at your service as a product. Like that's I think that's a really healthy way of looking at it. Yeah. You know, they're getting something. Yes. You could package up that service. Yes. The more you package it up, the easier it is to sell, the more efficiencies you gain from a resource perspective. So it's like you're getting this. For example, a lot of people are trying to move away from like hourly billable rates. They're packaging, they're productizing. So even if you are a service company, to view it as like, here's a product that we have, it could be just a service, but you can productize it. This is for this type of person. This is for that type of person. I'm selling this product to construction companies, this product to professional service companies. You know what I mean? I
guess you can call it. You can call it like as the result that you're delivering, right? So if your service helped the customer, let's say save 10 hours of doing things that they don't want to do, help business owners save 10 hours a week, then you could say, here's the product, this product will save you 10 hours. And essentially, it's a service that you help business owners save the time, right? So I guess that's one way you can call it.
Yeah, I want to add something in about what we said before, though, about like leveraging that first customer. So people understand a non-tech example. Talk to an entrepreneur who's selling a food product to a grocery store. Yes. And in that exact example, after a 45-minute call, finally I understand that he's sold, he sold some, but he's had 4,000 people consume his product. Oh, wow. That's a lot of people. Yes. But I was like, show me. Like, how would I know that? Isn't that good validation, credibility? Yeah. If I would have, like, maybe it was a free advice meeting. We're just hanging out. I'm involved in the entrepreneurship community, as you know, locally, as you are. Yeah. And I was just like, I want to step in. I'm actually the entrepreneur in residence at one of the local incubators, North Forge East, to be specific. So I just stepped in, but like, maybe I wouldn't have even taken that meeting. Yeah. But like, if you tell me, oh, like 4,000 people have tried my product. It's like, shit, like you put in your time, like you have something, but he doesn't have anything to show for that. You know what I mean? If I had 4,000 people try my product, I would have at least some kind of testimonials from like 100 people. I would have had surveys from 500 people. I would have discounted the product to the people I did sell it to in exchange for product feedback. Have them do some blind, like double blind experiment taste testing. You know what I mean? He has none of that shit. So, but if he did, it'd be a lot easier for him to wrap that up into a beautiful story and use that to sell to his retailers. So I think leveraging what you do for somebody else is kind of like that first step in scaling.
That's really cool. I agree. And well, recently you make a LinkedIn post and you talk about the importance of personal branding. You talk about how entrepreneurs or startups, it's very important for entrepreneurs to be our personal brand. So, and I made a comment on that, and well, it's also something I'm very interested in because I'm building my personal brand right now as well. Can you talk a little bit more about why is it so important for entrepreneurs to build a personal brand?
Yeah, so this is the coolest point that ties in David's world with my world, and it's the fact that I believe that in 2020, if you're building a new business and you're not leveraging your social personal brand, you're an idiot. Like,
and I totally agree. I think I put 10 million% on there and you wanted to report my comment because it's a ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, like anything over 100% is arguably worthy of reporting, but you put like 4 extra zeros. So but like I knew it would hit home with you, and I'd love to hear like some more of why you reacted the way you did. But I've just seen too many entrepreneurs that are not willing to put their face on their own website. Too many entrepreneurs that are too that they aren't comfortable even running their own startup while they have another job. They expect somebody else to do it for them. Entrepreneurs that have LinkedIn profiles without, Instagram accounts. They're business people, and you can't even see an actual picture of their face on their account. I think and we can talk more about this, but I think that your likelihood of achieving success and the speed of that success significantly impacted in a negative way.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I think nowadays, whenever people do business with anybody, before that first meeting, first initial contact, the first thing I feel like most people do is they go online, they're gonna put in your name, and they're gonna research about you. They go on Google, social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. They will try to find information about you first. And if you do not exist online and they don't get any information, they will be quite skeptical, walk into that meeting with you or buy your product or service. Let's say you try to sell them something and they try to find information about you, but there's nothing online. They will be skeptical. It will make it much harder for you to convince them to buy your product or service if you do not exist online.
I think so, and I truly think so. And I think it's not just the experience of finding a customer. It's every other type of stakeholder that might benefit you, that you might want to work with. If you're looking for a strategic partnership, if you're looking for distribution, if you're looking to get into the local newspaper or you want to go on the breakfast television show, you need to exist as a person. And the more that you exist as a person, the easier it is for somebody to make an excuse as to why they want to support you, or for them to just understand you better and feel the human. Like, people want to help people because people work with people, and if your person doesn't really exist, then why would somebody spend the effort, right? So like, I'm huge on advisors. I think it's really important to have advisors. That why would you be an advisor for, let's say, a startup, a new business, if that person's not sticking their neck out to tell the world that they're doing this and they're trying hard and this is why they care about it? It doesn't make sense.
And it's not only that, it's not just like, it's not about being able to find you online. I think back to the point of having advisor, right? People you only want to work with people that you know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And the coolest thing with social media is that it allows you to speed up that process much faster. Traditionally, if you want to build a relationship with an investor, advisor, it takes a longer process. You need to know that person first, like be friend with them, go out with them for, depends on how the relationship is, but go on dinners, a few drinks at the bar to build that trust and know, like, and trust factors. Now with social media, you could meet somebody for the first time, and then after that they go home, they go on social media, research about you. They already have a bunch of information about you, so it based on the work that you have done and the information that they found online, it speed up the trust building process faster than how it used to be. And if you don't have that online, you're not the only one who competing. Let's say you're trying to build a relationship with the investor, a famous investor. You're not the only one who trying to get to that investor, right? So if it takes you longer to build a trust with that investor, guess what? He will go with somebody who have already built a relationship with him through the personal branding, through the social presence, right?
I agree. So like you, at the time of this recording, you have around 38,000 people on your personal Instagram account, and you have 1.8 million on your corporate Instagram account. The likelihood of you caring about your personal reputation is extremely high.
Yes.
Because it's your face, right? Especially I am David Dang. So you care about your reputation. Is that saying that you're 100% like an above board, ethical sort of dude just based on the fact you have a following? No. But the fact that you exist so publicly, you're a public figure, you're in the public eye, means there's a stronger likelihood that you aren't a shady chap, that you care about this stuff. So I'm going to be more inclined to want to do a deal with you, because a lot of like new business partners, new partnerships, client vendor relationships, it can be as simple as you do something for somebody, they just don't want to pay you. Then what? You go to court with them? Like, you run into a lot of situations where if somebody wants to screw you, they'll screw you. So I think that's why, like, to your point, if you can do anything to expedite that trust and to have a base level of trust, just because you exist on the internet, and I honestly think it's that simple, which is another reason I do a lot of video content as opposed to text content, is because, like, our faces are there. We're not hiding behind anything. It's all real and raw. And that's what I thought about some social media. I wanted to be as intimate as possible with people, so I got the trust factor.
And another cool thing is that if you're a shady person, you do not want to be public, right?
Usually not.
Exactly. If you have something to hide, you're a shady person, you do not want to be so publicly available online. So and back to your point, of course, if you're online, it doesn't mean that you're 100% trustworthy. Of course not. But it's reduce the risk of in case you are. So
yeah, I would agree completely. And you set the stage really good there. I think trust is the right word. Like, it sounds like such a soft, touchy-feely word, but at the end of the day, you're making a lot of decisions in business that are not based on 100% fact. They're not based on 100% transparency. You need to take risks. You need to risk in people, whether you're hiring, partnering, whatever, co-founding. You take risks, and they're not always going to pay off. But like, if you can feel comfortable faster, it's going to only produce good things. I'm working right now with Deep Dive Technology Group. Misha is my good friend and CEO. I've known him for 7 years. I know his family. I know him. I know his favorite hobbies. I've had bottles of wine with the guy, right? We got a real relationship. And he's shared a lot of personal shit with me, and vice versa. He's helped me get out of some jams in my previous startup. The benefits of the fact that we have 100% trust, almost like he's a second father or older brother. Sorry, Misha. But yeah, we got about a generation gap. But the fact that he's like my big brother, it means that we're able to be that much more productive in business because we trust each other. It's not even just stuff like you know, we'll have real honest conversations.
Mhm.
We'll give each other honest feedback. We'll trust each other with financial information. We'll trust each other with passwords.
Mhm.
You know, you don't have that
Yes.
in a lot of environments. So I think when you do have trust,
Mhm.
better things happen.
Yes.
And if you're trying to start a business and you're not putting your face on the internet,
Mhm.
what reason are you giving somebody to trust you?
Exactly.
Unless you get a direct introduction from somebody.
Yes.
Intros are amazing.
Yes.
I would never knock that.
Mhm.
But in addition to that, get the intro,
Yes.
but put your face online so when
Mhm.
the person Googles you,
Yep.
something pops up other than
Yep.
seeing that you were part of the Manitoba Table Tennis Association, which, yeah, I used to play some ping pong.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Business, I think, is all about trust. Really, in any business transaction, the customer give you money because they trust that you would deliver something back of value.
Yeah.
If they don't trust you, no matter what you say, like if you tell a customer, hey, if you give me $10, I'm gonna give you $1 million back. Well, they will only do that if they trust you that it would happen.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't trust you're gonna do that, they're not gonna give you money, right? So the trust is extremely important. Same thing with investor. If you ask investor to invest in your business, well, you have to build the trust that investor can trust you first. Otherwise, nothing gonna happen.
Yeah. So do you have advice for like a particular type of content or personal branding that's best to build that trust? So like I hinted towards, I like video. I know that's a broad category. Is there something that you like or that you're noticing within personal branding that you're like, this helps to build trust? This is the best way to represent yourself? It's a big question, but I'm curious what you're thinking works.
I actually think video is the best way to build that relationship with the viewers.
Yes.
Because really, videos it's not the same, but it's sort of like the person can see how you behave, how you talk, the way you express yourself, right? It's tell a lot about you. And really, video, I think it will be definitely is the best. Audio, I mean, you're missing the facial expression, the body language. Through text, you're missing pretty much everything else, right? So video is the best way to build a personal brand, to get people to know who you are. Just think about it. A lot of YouTubers right now, they have the famous YouTuber who have millions, 100,000 of followers. People feel like they know the YouTuber, even though they never met in person, but their subscribers feel like they know everything about that person, how they behave, and even though they never met before, but like those people are able to build trust 100% through videos. And a lot of them are doing extremely well where they leverage their followers, their audience to just start a business because they have already built that trust up front. And then once they launch their business, hey guys, I have this amazing product. It's going to solve your problem. The trust has already built. I know that I can trust you, that you can solve the problem that you're saying you're going to solve. Here's my money. I have that problem. Take my money.
Right. And in that situation, let's say you're not happy with your purchase. Let's say it doesn't arrive if it's a physical product. Let's say you take the online course and you have a question, and without getting that answer, you don't get the value. If that person has a really good online brand, you've probably been able to see how they interact with subscribers. You probably see how you get an idea how they behave, and you just come to the feeling. It's again totally a trust thing, but you get back to the feeling that if I give this person my money, am I going to get my expectation met?
Yes.
Or if I don't, and they say 100% guaranteed money back, you know, a lot of websites say it. I still don't trust that I'm actually going to get my money back with a lot of websites.
Yes.
But if you put your face on it, instead of, you know, if the business is, you know, if the business is daviddang.com as opposed to entrepreneurshipfacts.com, that 100% guarantee, you'll be able to leverage it better and more authentically through daviddang.com.
Of course, 100%.
But when you would connect one to the other, that's a totally different thing, right? I think it's still good to have product brands, but one thing I'm trying to do now is just use my personal name, even in a situation where it's a company, even in a situation where it's a podcast or whatever. Like, use your personal name. Because people should not just know your face, but they should know your name. You connect those together, and then Bob's your uncle.
To to add to that, honestly, I feel like the way from now on, if you want to start a business, sell anything on the internet, you must have a personal brand. Otherwise, I can tell you, your business most likely will not succeed. You're not gonna get your first customer. Like what we talked earlier, you need to have that personal brand to build the trust. And the cool thing with that personal brand is that is first it helps build the trust, but you can also leverage your audience as well. Honestly, for me, I'm really a nobody, but I'm able to I'm able to connect with people like Tony Robbins, Damon John from Shark Tank, Patrick Bet-David, like all the big guys in the industry, in the entrepreneurial world.
Huge.
Yes, I'm able to connect with them and network with those guys simply because of my audience and my personal brand. I'm able to leverage that. When I reach out to them, well, they're not gonna like when I've interviewed those guys, like when I reach out to them, they're not gonna be like, okay, this guy has a lot of followers, I will just be on the interview. It's not as simple as that. Sure, it helps to give me some leverage to get their attention. Right. That's the first thing. But because of my personal brand, they would check out my personal page to see, okay, who is this guy about? What is his mission? What is his value? Why he's doing what he's doing? And those things give them information to build a trust. It speed up, like I said, speed up the trust process, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to have enough time, enough of their attention to build the trust up front. So I got their attention through the leverage of my audience. Then I used my personal brand to build the trust with them to speed up that process so that they would agree to connect with me, be on interview, do business. So that's the power of a personal brand. So if you do not have a personal brand, starting from now on, especially with the pandemic, everything's shifting online now. Everybody trying to sell stuff online, and if you don't have personal brand to sell, nobody will trust you, because it's much harder to sell it behind your company logo.
Totally. Do you think, like hypothetically, if you were to try to get Patrick Bet-David on your show, when you, back in the days when you had between 10,000 and 100,000 followers, as opposed to now, you know, you're at 40K or 1.8 million, depending how you look at it. Rewind a few years. Do you think you could have done it?
I think so. I mean, as long as my audience, or what I would say, the number of audience that I have, really only to get his attention. Yeah. Just to, okay, this guy is worth my time to see what he's all about, but that's to get that get his initial attention first. But if he go to my profile, look, okay, this guy's selling shady stuff, he's doing a bunch of shady stuff, I don't trust this guy, I think he's gonna ruin my reputation if I do it has anything to do with him, and nothing gonna happen, right?
So do you, like, is there a message here that, like, you shouldn't reach out to Patrick Bet-David if, you know, or guys like Damon John? Do you not reach out to them if you don't have a big personal brand? Or can you do it when you're small, but just do it with a super targeted offering and understand you're less likely to succeed? What do you think?
I think it really depends here. It really understand what leverage point do you have. I'm just using my number of followers as my leverage. That's the biggest assets that I have to offer to them to get their attention, right? So if you don't have a big following, doesn't mean that you should not reach out to them. You could, but you need something to leverage to get their attention, something that they need first. Otherwise, if they view it as, okay, somebody reaching out to me, I can see how I can bring that person value, and so much value, but I don't see any value that person can bring to me, then they're not going to give you the attention you need. So you first need something you can leverage so that they give you some attention first. But that once you got attention, that doesn't mean you're done. Once you got attention, that's when your personal brand comes to play. They're gonna check you out. They're gonna research about you to see what you have done, what you're all about, your value, your why, all those stuff. And if they see, okay, I can relate to this guy, he seems trustworthy, then they may do something with you.
Makes sense. If I was to say that everybody has a personal brand, whether they're building it or not, would you agree? Like, I think that personal brand, I don't know what the definition is. I could come up with some shit definition, but let's just say what I feel about it. I feel like it's your personal brand is what people think about you. So like when your name gets mentioned, or when people think about you, what do they think? Or when they think about the things that they do, that you do they end up going back to you? You know, so If can you connect those dots? So I think even people that are not leveraging their personal brand, technically they still have a personal brand.
Yes.
Like it still
Oh,
exists.
100%, yes.
You have an ID card, you have a personal
Yes.
brand. It just might be sitting on the shelf, not serving any purpose, right?
Yes.
So like I think a lot of people might get scared about starting a personal brand because they think they're starting from scratch. They don't know where to start. What's your advice to the person that's like feeling like overwhelmed? They've never posted. They're like, where do I do?
I think it's the difference here is like people. Yes, I agree with you that whether you're trying, everyone has a personal brand. So I think the question will be, how do I start my personal brand online? The only difference is that the people who know you, your personal brand is based on what people think of you, right? So now, if you don't have any online presence, really, your personal brand is the people, what do the people around you think of you? Now you're trying to bring that online to get more people to know about you, to get people from over the world to know who you are. So what's your question again? How to help them get started?
When if people get overwhelmed when they're starting from zero. So like what would be your advice to someone that's like, I don't have a personal brand online. Okay. Where do I start?
Actually, everybody, or if you have Facebook, Instagram, or any social media platform, you already have a personal brand online.
Yeah,
like,
true.
If anybody go on your Facebook, they see that you go to nightclub every day, you get drunk.
That's your personal brand?
Yeah, that's your personal brand. That's what people think of you if that's what you post on Facebook. And if an investor or someone who wants to do business with you see those things, well, I guess, do they want to do business with you? Think about those things, right? So if you have any sort of presence on social media, you already have a personal brand. So I guess be mindful about what you share with the world. So I think you don't really have to do anything different. Just keep sharing what you want to share with the world, and just, I guess, be mindful of what you're sharing online.
I would agree. I would agree with the mindfulness, and I would also say that there's no one place to start. So talking with an entrepreneur last night over some burritos and glasses of water, just like this guy, we got backup water, so don't stress. Having this conversation, he was telling me, he's like, oh, for my first post, like it made it sound like he was doing some unveiling, like it was some major event when he was going to put his first episode on the internet. He already has stuff online, but he was like doing a new channel and new podcast. And I told him, just like, don't think that way. Just post an episode. Then you can do a whole episode that's just like why you started this. But like, don't think that you need to do some crazy introduction and some crazy this and justify to your audience. People are too busy. Put something out there, see how it sticks, right? So I just feel that a lot of people get caught up in the like, what do I do? Just do.
Exactly. I mean, you already done it without realizing it. If, like I say, if you have Facebook or Instagram, you have already done it. So what is the problem here? You already started. Right. So just continue doing whatever you do before. Just now, the only difference is now you're a little bit more strategic and mindful about the thing that you're putting out. That's the only difference, really. But otherwise, you have already done it through your social media account.
I would agree. And like, I'm really glad that you mentioned the benefits of having the personal brand. You gave the example about how you're able now to connect with some of the biggest heavy hitters in the entrepreneurship industry, let's call it. I don't know how to categorize, but
I guess online entrepreneurship.
Thought leaders, right?
Thought leaders, yeah, I think that's the right word.
So global thought leaders, you're attracting from wherever they are in the universe to your podcast, and that's really, really cool. I think that's one great example, and then I think there's so much more beyond that too. Because, and this is again a big thing about personal branding, most people that are going to start a business are not going to succeed in that business. It might be because like they decided to pull the plug themselves. Like I've shelved things. You and I had a startup that was 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks we did something and we tested it. We did a few things. We had a strong hypothesis, and we realized it was a lot harder. It was a lot more work than we thought. So then we just had a conversation about it. We shelved it. We had already set up the bank account and all that stuff. Maybe we did too much. But in 2 weeks, we went from idea to execute to shelf. No problem. And then you have the other situations where it's like, a clear failure. You run out of money in the bank.
Yep.
Customers say no,
Yep.
and you don't know how to pivot. In any situation, understanding that, and I don't want to be one of those like, oh, 90% of businesses fail. No, but let's just say more than one, more than 50% of companies, worse than a coin toss.
Yep.
Are you going to be like successful and sustainable versus not? So in thinking that, wouldn't you want to carry your victories that you do have from one business to the next? And wouldn't you want to even carry the learning and the education and the storytelling and the experience and the skills that come from even what might look like as a failure onto your next venture? Because I've seen both things happen. I've seen somebody be successful and you put out on social media or whatever, like, I'm doing my next venture.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it's like, it's that much easier to find investors. It's that much easier to get media.
Yes.
It's so much easier. But also, you can fail and still succeed because your network is bigger.
100%.
You know more shit.
Yes.
A lot of investors, I think, would like to hear that you failed once. As opposed to it's your first kick at the can. And now if you failed 10, 20 times, investor might look at you like WTF. But if you've got one or two failures, you're almost more attractive than if you didn't start at all. So anyways, I wanted to add that because I just think it's so important that we emphasize that, like, there's a plethora of benefits of putting your personal brand at the forefront.
I agree. Because, I mean, imagine if you build a business to say it's actually successful and but it's behind a logo, a corporate logo. The brand is just the logo. There's your face not even on it.
Yeah.
Now let's say for some reason the business is gone, you no longer have it, you start something completely from fresh. Well, you pretty much start from zero now, right? Yeah. But if you start that business, but the brand is your face, people know you. When people hear your name, they think of the business that you have started. Now, if you need to start something else, it's instantly add the credibility and the trust among the customer. Think about Elon Musk. He successfully started multiple businesses. Now, if he should start something completely random, I mean, the latest one I heard is the Boring Company, completely random, selling, I don't even know what they're selling, like flamethrower, a bunch of random stuff. But guess what? They they sell tons of stuff just because his name is on it. Sure. So if you have a personal brand, you can literally start any business as you wish.
And the weird reality is, using him as an example, which maybe we shouldn't, he's an outlier, right? But if Tesla and SpaceX, and I think he has one more. He has Boring Company.
PayPal. He used to.
He used to. So Tesla and SpaceX are his main two. Yeah. Let's say, Solar City is his third one, third pillar he's got really rolling right now. Yes. Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City. If they all go bankrupt in the next year, it doesn't matter. He's still got the personal brand leverage. People have still seen his face on the internet so many times as a prominent thought leader, as a respected person, as a smart dude, that people will think, oh, you failed, but like, you're a crazy, smart, cool person. You'll succeed on the next one. So I think people don't need to worry about if they do experience failure, if it doesn't work or not. It's like, put yourself out there. I've always been a big networking guy, and it's like, I failed, I got out of school, got out of university, did a startup, failed / shelved it. Somebody looked at me and was like, oh, you're a hard worker. You're a self-starter. I'm going to hire you as one of the first employees in my startup, and you can start earning equity. It's like, all of a sudden, you can leverage something that failed to something positive. Recently, I had a conversation with an investor. I told him, I'm sorry. Like, I left the business, I left the partnership, but I told him, I'm sorry I didn't personally help to get you your money back. And I told him, I honestly think that there's maybe a 20% chance you ever see your initial investment. I said that honestly. I told him I felt bad. He knows I did what I could. And he told me, tell me what you do next, because I'm going to invest in that too. And it was like so cool to realize that you can have a failure, you can have a bump in the road, but if you have relationships that are often there because of the personal brand, And even if you know people, if they see your face more on the internet,
Yeah.
it kicks out opportunities, right? If you go for
sure.
coffee once every 6 months,
Yeah.
but they see you on the social media feed posting your progress updates, it builds the relationship, the trust, it marinates it, right?
Yeah, back to the point, everybody has a personal brand. Like, you already build that personal brand with your investor through the traditional way, the offline way, right? So now imagine if you can amplify that using social media. You're connecting with people from all over the world. It's not just people in your community, in your network. Now you're connecting with people from anywhere in the world. So the power is much, like,
it's bigger.
Yeah, it's much bigger.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool note. And I hadn't spent, like, I think it's a very opportunistic time right now for the people that are lucky enough to have their health and to have their safety in what's happening in the world today. And have a job. But for those of us that have our basic needs covered, which a lot of us in this Western world are pretty freaking lucky from that perspective, but we have our basic needs covered, and I think there's endless opportunities out there to do something even bigger than before, because now it's acceptable to go on a Zoom call with somebody halfway across the world. Now it's understood how to figure out time differences, how to use calendar booking tools to figure it out. People even understand complete language barriers much better than before. So, and people are building trust over the internet because we have to, because there's a freaking virus that's running around taking our heads off, right? So I think anybody out there, like, I think building the personal brand on the internet is more important now than it even was 6 months ago. What do you think?
No, 100% agree with you. Yes, 100% agree with you.
You don't want to say 10 million% or only 100? That's like the equivalent of 20% for you.
So yeah, I mean, I guess we can. Yeah, this is where the link between getting your first customer and building a personal brand here. So if you need customer, you have a business, you have a product or service that you're selling, but you have trouble getting customer people to buy from you. Well, the problem is, well, I guess the first thing is probably, if you look at your product or service first, does it solve a problem? If it does, then it's go back to your personal brand part. If you can't, you need to let people know that you have something great to offer, and then by having that personal brand to build that trust, that people can trust you. Okay, he said that his product can solve my problem. I know I can trust him. Because you will build the relationship through your personal brand. Then that's how you can get your first customer easily, through your personal branding. And now it's easier than ever to do it online. And yeah, like, you have to, otherwise you have a really hard time starting a business, like from now on.
Yeah, I think it's all about probabilities. I think you can do anything you want. You can take all this advice and throw it out the door. Like, that's fine. Like, try your own approach. But I think at the end of the day, I think what you learn as an entrepreneur, the more things that you do, the more experiences you have, is you just learn how to stack the odds in your favor. You know that doing this versus this will give you a higher probability of success. You know, it's like some people, like, for example, should you talk to your customers before you build your product? Absolutely. You're increasing probability of success and probability of spending the least amount of resources to get that success. But if you're sitting back with an extra $10 million in your bank account, build the product. Like, you know, you might be wrong, but if you are okay with that risk. But for most of us, we're not in that situation. We have limited time. We have limited resources. We have limited human capital, limited number of hours in the day. So we can't just afford to throw, you know, our whole credit card worth of savings into a startup. We need to test the waters. We need to be efficient. So that's where it's like, you'd be an idiot not to build a personal brand. You'd be an idiot not to put out video content of you talking about the topics that are important to your brand. You'd be an idiot not to, you know, be active on the internet in a way that looks good, as opposed to just going and boozing it on Saturday nights.
And actually, to add on that, like, a lot of people think that it's take too much work, too much effort. It's require a lot of, you know, time and resource. But honestly, I don't think it's require that much effort. You, like I said, you have already built your personal brand online. If you have any type of social media account, you're already doing it. Like, now use it, like I said, use it have to be a little bit more intentional. All you have to do really, beside building your business, beside building your product, take out your phone, start recording video of you talking about what you've done that day. Like, hey guys, today I'm working on my product. I talked to my customer champion, and then this is what I learned. These are problems that they're facing, and this is what I'm trying to do. Done recording, upload on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I mean, I don't think how that is a lot of work. Like, really, that's all you have to do. You don't need any fancy production. You don't need like this screen. You don't need, you know, this microphone. Your phone right here, whatever is in your pocket, you already have the tool to start building your personal brand. It doesn't require much work.
You're totally right. I agree with that 100,000,000%. And just also want to note that that's a really good content. Like, just taking the stuff that you're doing in your day-to-day. It doesn't always need to be, ooh, I think this philosophical thought about the universe. No, sometimes it's just like, hey, this is a problem that I just figured out exists.
Yes.
Here's what I think I'm gonna do about it.
Yes.
What do you guys think? Like, there's so many things you could do to leverage your audience. You're not sure about something, ask your audience. Share your experience with your audience, because you're gonna find one cool person in the comments section will say, oh, I had that same experience too. It'll turn into a business development or relationship building opportunities. So I think you know, if you're not sure what to talk about what you're working on, right?
Exactly. That's I guess it's actually it could be that your best marketing material is will convert way higher than any piece of marketing campaign that you're trying to do for your product. Sometimes just take your phone out, start recording, talk about the thing that you're working on, like why you're doing it, the problem you're facing, and how you're solving those problems. People might relate to that much better than your fancy marketing video that you're trying to get people to yourself or not and convert them.
Yeah, so you'll leverage it anyway.
Yes.
But if you're successful, then you have a massive way to leverage it, because people have watched you on your journey to figure something out. And the word success, we're not just talking financial. We're talking about getting a product in the hands of customers. We're talking about public recognition. We're talking about you developing your skills. Because a lot of people probably watching this content today, young people, a lot of young people. So like, if you're a young person, like, who cares whether you're making, whether you're putting 20 grand, 2 grand, $500 in your bank account a month. If you're learning by executing and you're documenting it, you're building your personal brand, you're sharing it, you're becoming more credible. It's so freaking obvious. So hopefully we can convince a few more people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest excuse I hear not entrepreneurs make is it require too much work? Is it a long process, too much resource? Sure, it's a long process, but if you're already documenting the thing you're doing, it doesn't take that much long. Like, really, it can be done in less than half an hour a day. Just take out your phone, just start talking whatever going on that you're working on that day and upload it. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, and I think that's enough. That's really all you need.
Oh, agreed. Do you think this scales when you become successful and busy? What's your thought about that? When you're the successful CEO and you got a company that, you know, you got 100 people, you got 1,000 people, whatever, but all of a sudden your time is more limited. You can't do all this stuff. Where do you draw that line?
I think it's still an excuse, because guess what? If you have the resource, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. He run 1,000 people company. He has somebody follow him everywhere and record everything that he's doing during the day. You don't see him just sitting in front of, like, you rarely ever see him sitting in front of camera talking about like something just by himself, just for the purpose of creating that piece of content. No, he just go on in his day, do things as normal. He go to meetings, he meet people. He's not really trying to. It doesn't take him any time at all. It takes him 0 time to create content, because he's just doing whatever he's already doing.
He's sharing his day-to-day experience. A little bit different than the young early stage entrepreneur, but he's still sharing his day-to-day journey, right?
Yes, like, he's just creating a bunch of content. He's building his personal brand. Yes, it costs some money to hire somebody to follow you, but really, but it takes
But
him
he's at that
zero
point.
time. Yes,
Yeah,
it takes
makes sense.
Yeah, so
Yeah, there's so many companies that like right now, and this is young people, this is old people, but they say that, you know, they think that they have no time to do something, and it's like using that example. I just had a conversation with somebody about this. They're like, "Oh, there's not enough time to do it," and I said, "How do you not have enough time for 1 hour of going around with a video camera, recording the CEO?" And when you record the CEO, you can turn that 1 hour conversation into 10 micro video posts, 3 blog posts, 5 text posts, because you can use auto transcription software. So you take the words from the video call and you say, "Oh, that's a good post." You could take that and you can turn it into 2 infographics. You can turn it into like all these different forms of content from 1 freaking hour of recording. So all you need somebody to do is splice that up, edit it up. And by the way, and this is where maybe I think it makes more sense for a business to do this, or for an entrepreneur, than they could ever imagine, is because people would rather follow a personal account on social media than a business account.
100%.
So if you're the CEO, post shit on your account that comes from your mouth and your thoughts, and get your team around you to help you do that. If you're an entrepreneur, don't focus on just posting stuff on the corporate brand. Post it on your personal brand too. Do both at the same time. They can leverage each other. But that's where I think like it's really good content to have you doing the things that you do, whether you're Gary Vaynerchuk, whether you're me or you, or whether you're Joe Blow down the street that's just starting his snow removal business.
And here's a cool thing, I think, and another additional benefit of recording what you're working on is that you get the feedback faster than just waiting until you get the finished product and launch it to the market and realize that nobody wants it. So if you say, if you during the day, like, "Hey, I talked to my customer today, this is the problem they're having, this is what I'm trying to do to solve it," and then you post it, people see it, those who have the same problem, "Hey, actually that's not how to solve it. I have that same problem too. I don't think whatever you're working on right now is the right direction. Here's my thought on it." You get that instant feedback right away, not just from one person that you spoke to that day, but from people from all over the world, people who are following you, who have an interest in what you're working on. You get the feedback instantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I made a post the other day. I was like, "Hey, I have this problem," and it was a real situation. I was like, "I really have this problem," and I asked people, I was like, "Does anybody else have this problem? Does anybody care about this problem?" And from that, I understand that I have a list of potential beta testers. If I decide to do something and scratch my own itch. Or you have the other situation. Yesterday on the phone with an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur says that they're not sure what to put on their website for their like the main headline at the top page fold of the website. What's going to convert? And I said, "Well, how many options do you have?" They're like, "Oh, 8, 12. I was like, "Limit it to 4 options. Post it as a survey. A, B, C, D." Like every social platform is a bit different. LinkedIn lets you do surveys. I'm not sure if Instagram has an option, but you can just comment with the letter or whatever. But like, let your audience help you to build your business, right? Whether it's with their advice, whether it's seeing them as customers, whether it's just exchanging ideas. Do you like this logo or this logo? Does anybody know a more efficient way of moving an object from this country to another? Does anybody have a good lawyer? Like there's 1,000 examples, but you gotta, to get the most interaction, to get the most value, you need to be consistent, you need to be out there, and you need to produce value. You can't just wait until you need something and then be like, "Ooh, does somebody have a good accountant?" You'll get 10 times the responses and people will spend more effort if you've gone through the journey to build the brand and to ultimately to be offering value to the people that are giving you their eyeballs.
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, hopefully people can see the value of building a personal brand and how it's can tremendously help in growing their business.
If they don't, can they DM you? And let's bring them in here. Let's bring them in the studio and let's figure out, let's debate it, because I don't think there's any good reason to not build a personal brand. So like anybody that says they don't have time, we debunked that myth. Anybody that thinks that they're an introvert and they should hide behind the scenes, I also call total bullshit
Yeah.
because it doesn't require you to go marching up and down the streets just
Yeah.
to be more active on the
Mhm.
internet.
Yeah.
If people think that they can build a business and they think that they're not sacrificing something by not doing the personal brand, that's where I keep saying they gotta be an idiot.
Yeah, yeah. I guess there's some downside, but I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons in every single aspect. Especially if your goal is to build a successful business, it's the best way. Well, it's not the only way for sure, but it's definitely the best way to do it. Starting from now on, if you do anything online, you just have to start building your personal brand. Yeah, that's. Do you have anything to add to that?
I suppose I would just add to that building your personal brand can also be fun.
Oh yeah, it's so fun. Honestly, here the best part, if whatever you're working on, the business you're working on is so fun to you, you want to share with people. You want to talk about it all the time, like. And then this really is, why not do it in front of camera and share with the entire world, right?
Yeah, you're already having the conversations. You already care about your craft.
Yes.
So why don't you leverage it? Why don't
Yeah.
you produce it?
Yeah.
That's where I think it's important to do something during your day
Mhm.
that you genuinely love.
Yes.
Like if you don't think about what you do in the shower,
Yeah.
you're in the wrong business.
Yes.
In
for
my
sure.
opinion, right? So
For sure.
you should be in that shower and you should come up with new ideas.
Actually, that's give me a thought that the reason people might not want to start a personal brand is because they don't truly enjoy what they're doing, and that's why they don't even want to talk about it, and they scare. They're not proud to even talk about it. So I guess that could be one reason why.
Yeah,
might not want
you're
to start
you're
personal
you're
brand.
right. You're right, and I actually wouldn't debate that at all. But then that's a totally different problem than that person
Yeah.
has, right?
Yeah.
And even if they do have a different day job, they can still, even if it's not their business,
Mhm.
they can still put out content
Yes.
that's related to the value that they bring the business.
Mhm.
And I think I don't want to say most, but lots of business owners
Mhm.
in 2020
Yep.
understand that people got side gigs, people
Yeah.
got side projects. It's blurred lines
Yes.
between what's considered work and what's
Mhm.
considered at home.
Yep.
You can't really tell your employees like you're not allowed to go and make $1 outside of this.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do. So
Yep.
I think if you have a thing that you're good at your
Yep.
day job, like take the part of it that you enjoy the most,
Mhm.
leverage it.
Yes.
Or if what you love is nothing to do with your day job,
Yeah.
talk about that. Like I think it's okay
Yeah.
to that if your brand has nothing to do with your day job, I think that's okay. It's still okay to
Yep.
build a brand.
Yep.
It might become your day job
Yep.
at some point, which happened to a
Yes.
lot of people on
Yes.
YouTube, right?
Oh, of course. Here's the cool thing, like just relate to the point you just made. There are people who love fishing, and it has nothing to do with their day job.
Like my father.
Yes, but when they go fishing, they start recording video of themselves fish. Like they start talking about their experience, how they fish, where they fish, just talking about randomly about their hobby because they love it so much, they enjoy it so much, they could talk about it for hours and hours. So they just start recording it, put it on YouTube. Of course, first they don't have any business, they don't make any money, but eventually, as people watch the video, they relate to it, they like the personality, like the people build a know, like, and trust factor, people follow that person, and then brands start reaching out, offering you deals, and then from there, you make money from those brand deals. But if you want, you could just start business from there. You can start fishing gears, fishing stuff to your audience. Like you could just turn a business from nothing, just based on your personal brand. That can be a business alone. You don't need to start a separate business to need to start a personal brand. Your personal brand is a business.
Absolutely. And worst case scenario, you might find a few new fishing friends.
Exactly.
Right? So like it's a win-win
Exactly.
in any way, shape, or form, just to put the things that you care about in a thoughtful way.
Yeah.
But in a true and authentic way.
Yes.
On the internet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love how we started with how to get your first customer for your new startup, for your new business. Now we just talk completely about how personal branding will tremendously help your business.
I think it connects. I think it connects. I think one of the best ways to find your first customers is to have a personal brand, right?
Yeah.
So it's really one and the same conversation. And you know, whether we're walking in the park, whether we're having a Zoom chat, or whether we're doing it here in the studio, it's freaking fun to talk about, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've been going on for like over an hour now, so I mean, I hope people are still watching and listening right now. If you do, then great. Thank you for sticking with us until this far. I mean, it's not even my intention at all to just talk mainly about personal branding. But hey, if you enjoyed it, feel free to check out my Instagram page. I'm David Deng. I talk a lot about personal branding there. If you want to learn how to get your first customer, then check out Luke Podcast. Where can people find out about your podcast?
They can go www.firstcustomerclub.com.
Yes.
And they'll see videos of a lot of cool conversations about this.
Yes.
They can also join the conversation on LinkedIn. They can find me, Luke Bohunicky, and I share a lot of micro content. Sometimes it's me talking about what I'm doing to find my early customer champions in my day-to-day. And sometimes it's me having really cool founders on my show, putting out short micro content of the full-length episodes. Again, recycling, sharing, and leveraging a lot of really smart people to make myself look good. The benefits that I've seen to starting a podcast, the benefits that I've seen to building a personal brand, it not only landed my current job right now, but it allowed me to build my network. It allowed me an excuse to learn. It allowed me to be an advisor to a group of startup companies. So it's that perfect example where people are like, oh, are you selling something? I got nothing to sell other than I'm sharing everything I'm learning about how to find the first customer. So that's my authentic pitch, I guess, for now. But hey, if I have a product in the future, don't sue me.
Well, you can definitely leverage your personal branding to build product or business later on, right?
Absolutely. So, and you and I at some point are going to get back on the horse and we're going to try another business venture, and it's going to last longer than 2 weeks.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. Yeah, super excited. Anyway, make sure to check out his podcast, First Customer Club, at firstcustomerclub.com, and on LinkedIn, Luke Bohunicky, and my personal Instagram page, I am David Deng. I'm sure you probably follow me on Entrepreneurship Facts already. So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy our conversation. It was really fun, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Thanks, guys.
All right.